every night now.
I'd like to call the Board of Directors meeting of the Des Moines Public Schools for December 13th, 2016 to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Boson.
Here.
Ms. Newcomb.
Here.
Ms. Langford.
Here.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Ellsbernd. Ms. Anderson. Here. Mr. Barron.
Here.
The first item on our agenda this evening is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any items that they'd like to have pulled from consent? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion from Boson, a second from Ellsbernd to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the November 15th, 2016 meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve?
Move. Second.
We have a motion from Natasha and a second from Ellsbernd. Any discussion or corrections? Please vote. Motion passes 6 with 1 abstention. We have no district recognitions this evening, so we'll move to our consent items. We allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for 5 minutes following the presentation of an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak to an agenda item, please go to the information desk to sign up. Remarks must be germane to the agenda, and we ask that you avoid reference to personalities and character attacks, as those types of comments serve no productive purpose. As a reminder to the board and the public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with a speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among the board members and at the board table, with speakers' comments informing said discussion, deliberation, and determination as deemed necessary. We appreciate your input. Mr. Barron, do you have the motion?
I do. I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $8,906,284.20 and procurement card transactions in the amount of $594,348.34.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Barron, a second from Boson to approve the consent items. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. The next item on our agenda are public hearings. We have 5 of them this evening with presentations on the first 2. I'd like to call the first public hearing to order. Is there anyone wishing to speak to agenda item E1, additions at Wright Elementary School? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
I recommend the board approve the plans and specifications prepared by Angelo Architectural Associates for additions at Wright Elementary School following a public hearing and presentation.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the plans and specifications for additions at Wright Elementary School?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion from Anderson, a second from Ellsbernd. We will now turn it over to Mr. Good and his colleagues for the presentation.
Great. Good evening, Board, Superintendent. I guess first of all, I'd like to pass along an I'm sorry from the principal at Wright, who, of all things, has chosen a student program at school tonight, opposed to being with you. So I will tell her that you acknowledge that, and she did wish that she could be here. She did want to pass along that she's very thankful for the additional opportunities that these improvements will make for the students at Wright. So, but with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Thiessen, who's with Angelo Architectural Associates, and he will walk us through the plans.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening. Again, I'm Mark Thiessen with Angelo Architectural Associates, and tonight we're going to give you a brief overview of the Wright Elementary Addition project. Do we have slides, or do I need to click these, Bill? Right here. Okay. Don't know if you can see the whole slide, but there. Okay. The plan you see before you is a picture of the existing site. with the white portion, the Y-shaped facility. Yeah, and you can see it in this as I move the cursor around. That is the existing building. And right down where the cursor is right now is the existing cafeteria slash gym space. You'll see off to the to my left, you're right, the new drop-off bus lane, visitor parking that was constructed approximately last summer. I should give you a little bit of site reference. About 3 houses above this school is McKinley Avenue. To the lower portion of this site is Hackley Avenue, and the school facility is the address Southwest 14th Street. And again, it's surrounded by residences on all 4 sides. It has 2 existing entrances to the site. This first one is the visitor drop-off lane that I pointed out, and then on the east side of the site, there is an existing employee parking area and an entrance area off to the east. We are, as part of this project, that is an unlighted area, we are going to be adding exterior lighting to that parking area. And then this portion of the pavement in this location is asphalt. It is not in the best of condition, and so we will be also repairing that. So, but the main focus of the project is the new office addition with the new security enhanced features, and then the gymnasium addition on the east side to separate that. And that is kind of the 2 main goals of this project, was the much more enhanced secured entrance and to separate those cafeteria gym functions. Next slide. This particular plan in the light area is the existing Y-shaped school that we pointed out. The green space that you see in the kind of the star pattern is the existing corridor circulation system that is currently vinyl tile floors, and we will be removing those and replacing those with polished concrete. The orange area at this area, in this location and down at this area, will be newly renovated restroom facilities, modern new fixtures and finishes. The purple area is the area that the new addition will be. The new office addition will be vacating, and we will be putting in some new spaces there. We'll get into more detail, but the blue again is the office area, and you can see that the sidewalk going this direction leads to the new drop-off lane, and then the yellow is the site area. What I might add here is off of that site area is a storage area for the grounds crew for their equipment and facilities that they need, and storage of materials to maintain the site. And that space is replacing an older, worn out little wood storage area. Next slide shows the gymnasium. We will reference to the green, the corridor extension. Basically, we're extending the existing corridor. Currently, there's a vestibule in this location, and we'll be just removing those doors. Small ramp that leads down to accommodate the grade. And then we have a new vestibule created here with large new walks coming off of the existing employee parking area. And visitors can park there also. There is some handicap parking stalls also back at that location. And then they can enter into the facility. This space is also designed for to function without entering the existing school, an assembly function, which is a requirement of the city of Des Moines. And we have restroom facilities to accommodate that in men's and women's, or boys and girls, if you will. And then enter into the new elementary gym addition. Along the entire north wall are high glass windows to let in natural light into the new gym. On the south side of the gym are support spaces for the gym function, the PE office, the athletic equipment storage, and then you'll see that exterior storage area for the grounds crew. And then we have another office onto the side, onto the beyond that most likely will be used for Metro Kids before and after school functions, which I think, and maybe serve other functions. Michelle maybe would allude to that a little bit more if, during the school. The last slide I think we're going to show you is the entrance. This is the new walk coming from the new drop-off lane. The dashed line indicates a canopy area. They currently have quite a nice canopy that when the students are waiting outside, if it's inclement, they are underneath. So we have an entrance canopy. You enter into the new vestibule secured area, and it's all glass. Also, you can see glass all along the front windows here, enhancing the security from the main reception office, the principal's office, and the open office, we call it, but it's probably more related to teacher support staff for their offices and some one-on-one education. And then directly behind this is the new main reception office. Directly behind that is the new nurse's office. She has a brand new handicap restroom function and her own dedicated storage area, and good proximity to the main office. She can actually see to the front door also if she desires. And then we have a small conference room on this side of the corridor, and this is all open leading back to the area that we vacated. Would become a new large teacher workroom, quite nice, lots of cabinets with a handicap storage, our handicap restrooms. That kind of concludes presentation, and Bill.
Here are some of the highlights of this project that the principal and I put together. Again, we try to do this from a student's perspective. The ability to schedule PE activities better, because we will now have a separate cafeteria and gym, where before they had a joined facility, a shared facility. As was mentioned, we are improving the safety and security and the first impression at Wright, though even now I believe that's a very good first impression. Mm-hmm. Improving some spaces to provide academic intervention for students. Currently, some of those things are happening potentially in the hallway and breakout areas, and there'll be spaces now where they can do that intervention more appropriately. Improved teacher prep area, which they really needed. The remodeled restrooms were our student restrooms. That will be very near the office there. And again, the ability to use the multi-purpose spaces throughout the day for after-school activities and for our regular students during the day. And their conference room currently is the principal's office, and so now they will have a separate conference area. Here's kind of the timeline that we're estimating at this point. Construction to start at the end of school, and very aggressively to complete the entrance portion prior to school starting, and the gym completion would be October or fall of 2017. Estimated project budget on this particular project is $3 million. And again, the funding is as part of our 5-year plan of the statewide penny. So at this point, if you have any questions for Mark or I, and any hard ones, we'll phone in Michelle.
Any questions for our presenters, board? For your presentation, appreciate it greatly. We do already have a motion, so if there are no questions and no further discussion, I would ask the board to vote. Motion passes 7-0. I'll call the next public hearing to order on agenda item E3, Secure Entry Project. Sorry, that's not correct. I'll call the second public hearing to order on agenda item number E2, addition and renovations at Cattell Elementary School. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the superintendent to introduce the matter.
I recommend the board approve the plans and specifications prepared by Studio Melee for an addition and renovations at Cattell Elementary School following a public hearing and presentation.
I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the addition and renovations to Cattell Elementary School. We have a motion from Langbert, a second from Bozen. I think I will turn it over to the staff for presentation.
Thanks again.
All right. Thank you so much for letting me be here tonight and for taking the time to review the plans for the addition and renovation at Cattell Elementary. The added space is very important to us. The students and staff are thrilled about the opportunities this new space will provide, and it'll allow us to expand our work around turnaround arts, community and family engagement, and student learning. Oh, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tiana Sambold. I'm the principal there. So I'm pleased to introduce Curtis Ayler. He is the part owner of the Des Moines-based firm Studio Melee and the architect for the Cattell project.
How to advance just with the arrows. Thank you, Tiana. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, members of the board, for having us here today. Our office had the opportunity to work on the secure entry project at this school that occurred just this last summer, so it's nice to stay involved with it. It's always nice to be able to stick with a project and stick with a school. You get to know the principal, the staff, and you really get invested into the building, and we appreciate that. Start with the site plan. So north is to the left. The white areas indicate the existing building, and the orange indicates the new addition, and these lighter orange areas indicate the renovated areas. You'll note that it is just north of Hull Avenue, and then it is about 10 blocks to the east of Finley Elementary School, which had a similar project just this last summer. You'll notice that it's kind of located right in the middle of everything. The new addition has the gym just to the north of it. It has the playgrounds just to the south of it. And then there are parking on either side. There's an existing staff parking lot to the east. And then we will be adding a new parking and pull-through drive to the west. One of the nice things about this parking lot is that it has a drive-up and drop-off dock for loading and unloading kitchen deliveries. Currently, a lot of the deliveries come through the main entry drive-through, and then they come through the doors that are right here. By moving the cafeteria into this new addition, the kitchen deliveries can now occur in a separate parking lot, which will definitely be safer for the students, especially separating those two traffics. The new addition, which is designed mainly as sort of a multi-purpose cafeteria space, can be isolated. So even though it's in the middle of everything, it can be locked off from the existing building. So it can be used for after-hours use. And currently the school has a couple after-hours programs. There's Metro Care and 21st Century that use it. The renovated areas, it's sort of a domino effect of spaces. So what was the cafeteria is now moving into the new addition. And the art and music areas will now move into what was the cafeteria. And the classrooms, which were temporary classrooms that were being used in what was the library, are now going to take the old art and music area, which then frees up the original library and media center in the middle of the school to also be used as a multi-purpose space and another learning center for the students. In looking at the floor plan of the new addition, you'll notice right away, here's the multi-purpose and cafeteria space. There'll be a full-service kitchen with new food prep equipment. There'll be a staff lounge space, which will have windows into the multi-purpose area and cafeteria so they can keep an eye on the students during lunch. The tables that you see are all going to be portable tables. They can be rolled up and then stored in the storage rooms to the north. This allows the space to be used for several different purposes. And then we are providing new restrooms, so there's adequate restrooms for both use during when the space is a cafeteria and for after-hours use. And also note that the entire new addition will be accessible and meet all ADA requirements. Here are the elevations for the building. The south end of the building is almost all masonry. There's a lot of durable materials that are used. The south end, which faces the playground, will then be durable for impact from balls or other shenanigans from the students.
Shenanigan proof.
The metal siding that you see here will be a dark bronze metal, very thick gauge, and then there are windows you'll notice pretty much on all sides, which will allow for good daylighting and then good views for the students during lunch to see the area around there. If you have been by Cattell, you'll know it's a very, there's a lot of trees in that area. It's a very beautiful neighborhood, so I think it's nice that they have good views looking out to the side streets. One of the other benefits of putting the addition to the south is that we can add lighting and security cameras to the end of this building, which will give better monitoring of that playground area to the south, which before was quite a large expanse between the old building and Hull Avenue. And then a couple final notes. The building is currently, only the basement is sprinkled. In this project, we will be sprinkling the entire building, so it will be now one of those schools that can be checked off the list of ones that needed to be sprinkled. We're going to freshen up a lot of the finishes. There'll be new ceiling tiles throughout the existing building. We're going to repaint some of the corridors that haven't been touched for a few years now. There'll be new mechanical controls for the mechanical units in the existing classrooms. And finally, we're going to put new LED dimmable lighting in all of the classrooms, so better lighting and then better control for the teachers. Now we'll hand that back over to Tiana.
I would just like to take a moment to highlight what some of this does for the students and the staff at Cattell. We're so excited about this opportunity. Touching first on the library space, most importantly, it's going to allow us to expand the amount of reading materials that we offer to the students, which they're very, very excited about. And it'll also provide a space for the staff to consistently meet for collaborating as small groups and as an entire staff. The reconfigured art and music space, we're very proud of our Turnaround Arts designation and the work that we've done with that. It will improve the facility for student performances, such as band, orchestra, and vocal concerts. And additionally, as part of the Turnaround Arts system, we offer a musical every year, so it's going to enhance the space for that. And we will be doing The Lion King this year, if anybody would like to join us. The designated band and orchestra location is probably what I'm most excited about. Right now, our band and orchestra is mobile. They conduct lessons wherever is available. And this will allow a consistent area for them to meet with individuals or small groups, and also a place for instruments to protect that financial investment that we have. The additional office space, specifically this will benefit our student services team, which includes Success, our school-based therapist, and our counselor. It'll allow their offices to be centrally located. It'll assist in their team collaboration and also help them to better meet the needs of the students, which is ultimately our goal. Again, the flow of the building really lends itself to our Turnaround Arts. We have a very strong focus on bringing students and families into the building so that we can learn and grow through the arts. The renovation and addition will provide a central location for parent engagement. We continue to see an increase in that, and we're so proud to offer that to the community. Finally, the programming spaces. We offer Metro, before and after school care, and 21st Century for our students. The addition and renovation will provide adequate space for these exciting opportunities. The kids can't wait to be a part of it. And it will enhance the drop-off and pickup, which is currently something that we're working on, but this will be a great new addition to that project.
Again, the schedule is, we are thinking of starting this one a little bit earlier in the spring, as soon as we can break ground, and with the idea that we can get this completed by the start of school. The estimated project budget for this great new addition and renovation at Cattell is $3.5 million. And again, this is part of our 5-year statewide penny plan. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I know that we've got an excited principal here, and she'd be happy to answer all of those.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for your presentation. Are there any board questions? Hearing none, we do have a motion and a second, so please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next public hearing, agenda item E3, Secure Entry Project at Weeks Middle School. Is there anyone wishing to speak in this matter? Hearing no one, we will close the public hearing. I will ask the superintendent to introduce the matter.
I recommend the board approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Studio Melee for a renovation to include a secure entry at Weeks Middle School following a public hearing and presentation.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the secure entry project at Weeks Middle School?
Second.
We have a motion by Barron, a second by Anderson. Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Hearing none, please vote. Item passes 7-0. I'll now call our next public hearing to order, agenda item number E4, Secure Entry Project at Callanan Middle School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this matter? Come on now, I just want someone.
I know.
Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing and ask the superintendent to introduce the matter.
I recommend the board approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Wells Plus for a renovation to include a secure entry at Callanan Middle School following a public hearing.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the secure entry project at Callanan Middle School?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Langford, a second from Ellsburn. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Item passes 7-0, and I will call our last public hearing this evening to order. Item number E5, door hardware replacement at Hoover High School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this matter? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Ask the superintendent to please introduce the matter.
Thank you very much. I recommend the board approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Angelo Architectural Associates for the replacement of door hardware at Hoover High School following a public hearing.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the door hardware replacement at Hoover High School?
I'll move approval. Second.
We have a motion from Bozen and a second from Barron. Is there any discussion?
I have
Yes.
a comment. I just want to point out that this is the 5th public hearing that we've had tonight regarding projects with the statewide penny, which I believe total well over $7.25 million that we have tonight. The statewide penny and the extension of the sunset, you can see how important that penny is to the workings of Des Moines Public School. I just wanted to make that comment and why our advocacy efforts to have that extension are important.
Thank you very much for that comment.
You're welcome.
Last I checked, we hired people to do the work too and pay them, and they get to support their families with that money too. So it's impact is beyond the school district, really.
Absolutely.
Correct. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I would ask that we vote. Motion carries 7-0. So we have some great projects that'll be underway and some excited principals and students that'll be able to take advantage of those next year. So moving to the next item on our agenda, if I can get myself organized here, I believe the next item on our agenda is our open enrollments? Yes. Is that correct? Is there a presentation on those?
No.
Okay, hearing none. I would entertain a motion on the late applications for open enrollment. What's that? Need to have a motion and a second before discussion. We have a motion from Langford. Is there a second? Second from Barron. We are now open for discussion on the denials of the late applications for open enrollment. Yes.
I do have a quick question. maybe, I think this is the appropriate question for Tom. Could you describe the distinction between the DMPS home instruction and then just the homeschool request? I know we can't talk too deeply about this specific instance.
Are you talking about the virtual academy? Is that what you're talking about?
I know there was just, one of the reasonings that was given for one of the families was that we could accommodate the student in the home instruction program, and I know the request was for that particular person to be homeschooled. Okay, I don't know, I'm trying to be as vague as possible while talking
The
about
difference between
homeschool
homeschool and
and
the home
the
instruction.
DMPS.
Well, the home instruction program is just a support for homeschooling. So homeschoolers can participate in the home instruction program. So there aren't really two
They're not
distinct.
separate.
No, you can opt in or out of the home instruction program if you're a homeschooler. Many of our families opt in, but I'm sure not all.
Okay. Yeah.
Any further comments on the open enrollment late application denial? Yes.
Just a real brief comment, because I will be voting this down. And I know I've discussed it before, and so I just want to keep this kind of brief. It's just based on a difference in the information provided, then I would respectfully disagree with the decision made. So I just put that there.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to, on the open enrollment late application denials. Please vote. We have a motion, we have 6 yes and 1 no, so the motion passes to deny the open enrollment late applications. There's a handful. All right. So the next item on our agenda is item number F2, which is the Males of Color Conference Report. I'd like to invite Wes Hall to the podium. Wes, along with Des Moines Public Schools and Drake, were responsible for executing the district's first, or the community's first, Males of Color Conference, and we had a request from a board member to allow Mr. Hall to share some of the results of the conference and to talk about next steps and where this might lead us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Thank you for allowing me to come before you today. Briefly, before I give the report, this is a bit melancholy for me. Coming back into Des Moines, I went to Tech High School. And so we played football right in the fields back there, and it was interesting coming back a few years later, back into Des Moines. And being a product of Des Moines School District, it was interesting because I went to Coles Elementary. I was the president of the student body at Franklin Junior High back in the day, attended Tech, and then ultimately North High School. That's been a few years ago. And one of the things that was interesting was by the time I got to 11th grade, I didn't know how many credits I had, even though that information was quite readily available. I didn't know. And there was no one that really took the time and talked to me about it. So what you're really seeing before you today is the product of Des Moines Public Schools going forward now and coming back to you. Now as an educational consultant, an author, a national keynote speaker, and radio show host. And one of the things I can speak to before I get to the conference is that growing up in our school system, we have a great school system. It separated me from my peers across the country and enabled me to do some great work. Over the summer, through Jake Troja's office, I participated in a Cultural Proficiency Summit, trained approximately 400 of your teachers on success strategies for re-engaging disengaged students. What was interesting is many of the teachers who were scheduled to go to other rooms actually came to our room, and how much they wanted the strategies in terms of being able to build effective relationships with their young men of color. That experience prompted me to reach out to Bo James, who is here with us, the CEO of Hip Hope Inc., and we began discussions about the possibility of hosting a Young Men of Color conference for your district. I currently head the Young Men of Color initiative for the Los Angeles Unified School District, the second largest school district in the country. We've got a small district with about 640,000 students there in LA. And I'm over the entire Young Men of Color initiative. We're into our 4th year of conferences there in LA. And one of the things that we found out prior to launching our Culture Proficiency Initiative was the teachers needed to see our boys in a learning environment. And when they went back, it was different in terms of the way they dealt with our young men of color. The boys were dressed up, et cetera, et cetera. So coming into your market, coming back home, being able to partner with Drake University, which if you know anything about Des Moines, there's a line that separates Drake University, 24th Street east of that is the inner city community. And when I grew up in Des Moines, it wasn't something to where there was a mix between Drake University and the community. As a matter of fact, we didn't dream of actually attending Drake University as a young man of color growing up in the inner city. It was totally separate, even though it was so prestigious of a college. So to talk with Bo James, and then we met with Sintwali Bakari, and Drake, this is all perfect timing because they wanted to recruit more African-American males onto their campus. And so they participated and said, listen, we'll give you the facility free, and we will take care of the lunches and breakfast, which, as you know, for 250 young men is a sizable number. The conference was interesting. It attracted approximately 200 young men to 250. And what we began to recognize as we began to put information out, and eventually Des Moines Public Schools came on board. Thank you very much for your participation, Superintendent Ahart, in terms of actually for the buses and the recruitment. In a very short amount of time, we pulled this together. In about 2 months, actually, we pulled together a conference that was amazing. But what it became more than just a conference was the community. We had representation from the civil rights, urban dreams, creative visions, and a host of other organizations that for some reason were very interested in this conversation of young men of color. I shared with you the evaluations from the conference. And as you had a chance to read those evaluations, 99% of the young men who attended the conference either strongly agreed or agreed that they learned something and that it furthered their desire to participate in their educational process. Finally, Drake has made a 2-year commitment to hosting the conference. It was amazing to see the responses from those from Drake University as they experienced our young men. And they've made a commitment for another 2 years to sponsor the breakfast, give us the building, and participate in the conference. The community, one of the things that's interesting, I keep hearing this, is this the term a one and done? Is this just one time, you've got us all dressed up, Wes, with nowhere to go? Is it over from here? Well, let me say this. 3 years ago, I introduced to Los Angeles Unified School District this idea of conferences. And our boys left from that conference and they were all fired up. They wanted something more. So we created a village mentoring program for the boys. And then from there, we created a gathering of men where African American and men of color from across the city come together and help our boys. So to answer the question as to whether or not it's a one and done, and wrapping up tonight, as you can see, there's an urgent need. I have conversations all around the country, and one of the questions that's posed is, Wes, why should we separate and do something specifically for young men of color? Why not for everybody? And what's interesting is when you take a look at what's happening in our streets in terms of our young men of color, coming from our district as a young man of color myself, not so young now maybe, but nevertheless have attended the school here, I recognize where the people that are most ill have the most need. So in the conference, we're going to continue to this initiative ongoing. But what I challenge everyone to do is to think about and take a look at some of the reports that have been put forth in front of you and think about what earnestly can we do to impact our young men in a way that they vigorously participate in education? And finally, I'll say this. I've conducted a 9-year independent research project, and one of the critical findings in the project in terms of the attitude and behaviors of kids who emanate from economically challenged environments is their struggle to connect education to their future financial well-being. How is this stuff I'm learning in school going to help me get paid? So not only is the conference a visual success with the boys all dressed up, but again, I challenge you to take a look at what we can do beyond that. And I open up the floor for any questions that you have going forward. But most importantly, thank you so much for your participation in the conference and allowing me to come forth and talk with you today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here this evening. Are there any questions for Mr. Hall or any comments? I know many of us had the opportunity to be at the conference during that day at Drake, so I would certainly open up to board questions or comments at this point.
Sure.
Anderson?
All right. It was a pleasure working with you, Wes, and Bo, and Kim, and everyone else. I know I'm missing some names, but I saw the look in those young boys, in their faces, and they were excited to be there. A little tired when they first came in, but after a donut, woke up a little bit. But I really enjoyed the presentations when everyone was in the big room too, and then I was able to go to some of the smaller
Breakout sessions?
Yeah, breakout sessions, sorry. And one was put on by Corey Harris, and he did a really good job, so I was impressed. And you gave me this proclamation that the city, that day they proclaim Young Men of Color Day, and you gave it to me that day, and I was very honored. But I feel like I'm going to give it back to you. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I want it to be in the community and somewhere on display instead of on my table in the back of the kitchen or something like that. I'm joking around, but I mean, much better for you to have it somewhere. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and I thought that was a strong gesture from our mayor to proclaim Saturday, October 29th, Young Men of Color Day. It gives us something as a launch pad, and as you're right, some of the financial literacy workshops that we had were very powerful, and we're looking to engage the mayor again to move this initiative forward.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Yes, Mr. Barron.
Yeah, for personal reasons, was not able to be there, so I appreciated the report, and both verbally and the written report. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you recruited students for the conference?
Yes, actually, once we got Drake's okay for the location, we then talked to a board member who talked with Superintendent Ahart, who actually passed it along to a couple, I believe Matt Smith, and then Jason Allen got involved. And within a very short amount of time, they were able to recruit. Initially, we said we want just 125 students, because that's what Drake had committed to. I got a report back from Jason Allen that said, I think we've got 200. And so their recruitment efforts were just sending out, I guess, information through the school. And then from there, the kids signed up, and that's how they recruited the students. All came from within Des Moines Public Schools.
So I guess perhaps this is more a question for the administration then. Did you put a priority on any certain part of communities of color in recruiting for this, or are you trying to serve all, Asian, Latino, African American kids? I mean, I'm just kind of curious what the demographic breakdown was when we were done.
Oh, hey, there's. Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Smith?
Give us 1 second.
Good to see you.
Yeah, we focus actually through our chapters of our Brother to Brother program that we have kind of dispersed out through the secondary schools. So we brought all of those sponsors in, got their feedback, and had them do the recruiting within the schools themselves. And those chapters serve, males of color from Latino, Asian, and African American.
Okay, so what was did you kind of keep track of what the demographic breakdown was of the kids that participated?
Visually, it was heavily African-American. However, we did have other men of color represented. On our particular evaluation, we did not ask them what their ethnicity was. But across the country, including here in Des Moines, our young men of color, whomever they are, minority students who are underachieving primarily, that needed some help academically, that's where we target. I don't think there was anything that specifically said, are you underachieving necessarily? But I think the way the conference was shaped, it attracted. I'll take a look. When you take a look at the visual, I sent over a video that Des Moines Public Schools took, and you'll see that there's a lot of ethnicities represented in terms of young men of color. So we've had even some of our Caucasian students that come to the conference based on the information. They may have a friend that's a young man of color. And when they see the content in terms of what the breakout sessions are, that's what attracts them. So it's really, the reason we say, of course, young men of color is that's where the greatest need is that we're finding academically.
Yeah.
But we don't turn anyone away from our conferences.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think my my perspective is just making sure that we're doing a good job of reaching out to all communities of color when we do events like this, or if not, if it's if there's a priority on reaching a particular community within, then we target it that way and be clear about that.
Excuse me, I got a call from Al Perez, and Al was interested in next year being on the ground level in terms of planning and bringing the community in terms of our Latino community more aggressively into the conference. And we were certainly, matter of fact, Al did a breakout session at the conference. And so we're very interested in bringing the full weight of the Latino community into the conference, and to any of our students actually, though, that are underperforming. Those are our main concern for a conference like this.
Great. Well, good work. Thank you
So much.
Thank you. Want to keep things moving. Any additional questions from board members? Yes. Ms. Langford.
Concise. Well, being able to start the day there was really encouraging to see so many of our young men gathered in one space. And I think the piece that stuck out particularly to me was the community that gathered around them.
Yes.
But not being an integral piece of the planning committee, I'm just curious, of that day, I saw some of the signs, but what were the main focuses of that event? What were our young men geared to get out of that particular conference?
Right. Financial literacy was critical. Wells Fargo did a great piece on financial literacy. Also, cultural relevance. We wanted our young men to understand the relevancy and the pride of culture, and also academics. How do you use academics as a means to attract wealth? And ultimately, the real target of the conference is to help our kids to become more college and career ready. That's the whole deal. And I could go on and on and on about our parents and what we want to do with them eventually, but to get our kids to understand that being on Drake's campus is a possibility, a real possibility. And Drake has existing programs right now that our young men can take advantage of, and a lot of times they're simply not doing so. So to bring them onto the campus, for many of our young men, it's their first time on a college campus, so to help them to become more college ready and then career ready. So those were the main areas that we wanted to focus on with the conference.
Awesome. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Please.
It was particularly, I think, Matt, you mentioned that, and you don't have to come back, well, maybe you might be the best person to address this question, but you mentioned that Brother to Brother did a significant, that's where the primary recruitment happened through those. How many Brother to Brother chapters are there currently in our district?
I couldn't tell off the top of my head. I was going to say about a dozen, so 12 to 13.
Primarily in the middle schools, high schools, or a mixture of both?
Mixture of both.
Okay. How were they integrated into the actual event itself? Were they, or?
Actually, Brother to Brother has where they maintain a piece that a creed that they have. And so we had the boys actually stand up and they said their creed. In terms of recruitment, I think it was just Matt calling upon Bill Proctor then disseminating information out into his young people. And so they showed up with a significant number to the conference. But I think that The fact that when we first started the conference, we did not have a conversation with Des Moines Public Schools at that point. We had a conversation with Drake, with me coming in from LA, already doing the conference there in LA, and then with Bo James and Hip Hope Inc., the conversation was primarily, do we need to go into the community and recruit our boys? Then I was like, well, you know, Des Moines Public Schools already has all the boys. Why not go there? And so then again, through Heather Anderson, superintendent, and others, we developed that relationship. And that's where the recruitment came out of Jason Allen and others' offices. And so it wasn't actually going directly to brother to brother. It was more through the system itself of Des Moines Public Schools.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wrap up, any additional questions, comments?
Don't run away yet. Sorry. You know, I heard some wonderful things. I was unable to attend as well, and I am excited and glad to hear that there's 2 more to come. So I'd encourage, you know, I know Heather's locked in tight on this. This is her thing. I would love to get involved sooner in that planning process, as well as kind of see how we can fill in that gap, not just have it be the one and done. So thank you again for all your work on that, and look forward to working with you.
Well, I'll tell you, thank you very much. And I'll conclude with the community right now. I mean, you know, my Facebook is on fire in terms of when I talk about coming in and what we're doing here. I'm open to any suggestions on how we can work with our community too, because they're sitting there and they're saying, okay, you're doing something with the boys over here, you're doing something with the Des Moines Public Schools, but we have needs with our boys too. So how do we present a holistic approach as we move forward with helping our boys and helping our community to grow? So again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. We appreciate it greatly, and thanks to all of the community members that participated. Mr. Smith.
Sorry, you know how I get. I just want to add one more comment, Ms. Langford, to your question regarding brother to brother. That the reason why we chose that chapter as a conduit is because that structure exists currently. And as we talk about next steps and sustainability and how do we move forward, we thought that was the best route to use right now to leverage the current structures that we've got, so we expand upon that and move forward in that direction.
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it greatly. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is item number F3. It's posted this evening for discussion only. This is an opportunity to review the proposed policy changes. The first item is F3, policies 402, 406, 407, and 601 revised. Superintendent Adehart, any comments that you would like to share with the board before we enter into discussion?
Yeah, we go through and update these annually, and if you'll note, all the changes are shown in red strikeouts and then new content underlined in red. Essentially, the only things that have changed are making sure that Isaiah McGee, our equity coordinator, is the actual one designated in the policy, and then changing some addresses from both the civil rights offices and proper building in Des Moines. So there's really no substantive changes. It's just an updating.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to these proposed changes this evening? Board questions or comments on the changes? I did have one very short one, and maybe I totally missed this somewhere in the notes or in the overview, but do we have the complaint procedure delineated somewhere else in our policies, since we're eliminating it from this? In other words, it's redlined. The complaint procedure is redlined out of this. Am I on the wrong one?
I think you're on the wrong one.
Oh, I'm on the right one. It's the very last one. So those are all procedures, so that exists someplace else?
Yes, that's in our procedures.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so it doesn't need to be here because the procedural aspects of,
Yeah, it's in the regs.
right? 407 and 601. Okay. Well, there is, this includes 601, Series 600, Code 601, Educational Equity. And there are changes made to including Isaiah McGee as Equity Coordinator and changes in the address, and then the remaining components are deleted, so, okay. So what I would
I don't know
recommend.
where those came from.
Yep, what I would recommend is that we, should it be? Right. I want to make sure, though, that everyone knows exactly what we're going to be voting on when we get to the January 10th meeting.
Where did-
So
I'm just curious
we
where
need
that
to
came from,
clarify.
since that's not what's appearing on,
Okay.
in the board packet.
Go ahead.
I will just say that that was an error on my part. I did discover when I was working with Isaiah that what was currently on the website included all this other language, and he had not addressed that. And so I had a second document, and I apologize. I obviously attached the wrong one to the agenda.
Okay.
There there was a list of procedures at the very end of 602.
Okay. So this is what I'm going to recommend. We don't vote on this tonight. It's only for discussion, thank goodness. So I'm going to recommend that the appropriate document gets out to everybody so that in advance of our January 10th meeting, everyone will know the exact sections that are being eliminated. However, this is really just a procedural thing because the complaint process actually resides in another set of documents. It's just being eliminated from the policy.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Review policy, having been on review policy, we found that most of our policies also had procedures. So about 6 years ago, most of them got split out to go in procedures, so policies are policies, procedures were put into the procedure part, so that one might just not have been done.
Thank you. So again, this will come back to us on January 10th. Are there any additional questions, comments, or concerns about the changes that are being proposed? Correct. Okay. So we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is the second policy for discussion, and that is item F4 on our agenda, Policy 507, Bullying, Harassment, and Hazing Prohibited Revised. This is, again, another discussion item. This will come back to us on January 10th. Dr. Ahart, do you have any comments before the board begins its discussion?
Basically, these changes were prompted by changes in code. Hopefully, they're relatively self-explanatory, but Matt's here, and I'm here if you have particular questions.
Are there any questions from board members? Yes, Mr. Barron.
So just for clarification, the second sentence that is edited here begins with "It is a violation of this policy." So it's explicit about whom should not bully and who they should not bully. The change appears to be to broaden the definition of who should not bully and limit the definition of who should not be bullied. So I'm just curious. I understand broadening the definition that the district will not allow anyone beyond students, staff members, volunteer, parent, or business associates district to bully.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess I don't completely understand limiting the affected parties just to students.
I think the main motivation for that is our 500 series governs our student policies. And so this same type of behavior is relative to adults is in the, I want to say the 600 or the
I think it's 400.
400, sorry, 400 series.
Okay.
I think it's just for clarification that this is specific to students, whereas the 400 series is specific to adults.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Other questions? Yes.
okay, well, that then kind of raises a question. Since we're making the changes within the student policies, would we be expecting any changes in any other policies to kind of make sure these are similar in some pattern? I know you got great definitions and definitely seems to be clarifying for people. Would that also happen in the other series then that would apply?
Well, those have been reviewed. I don't know if we have any other changes that are necessary at this time. We can certainly review that.
And then just one comment. I do want to stress that I appreciate that this is adding a lot more information in the policy, and I think it will clarify many things. I know we get a number of emails, particularly on the bullying subject, and this will, I think, be very helpful for students, parents, and the community. So, great job.
Other questions or comments from board members? Hearing none, this item will come back to us for a vote at our January 10th meeting. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is an item that is information only, and it is the Head Start Policy Committee minutes. We've actually added a new item or a new category to our board agenda called information-only items, and this is really just to provide a record of information required to be shared with the board, which does not require board action or discussion. So I guess in AJEs, this would be considered incidental information. So, which brings me to items of privilege and the chair's report. I don't have a specific report, but I do have something that is long overdue that I'd like to take care of tonight, so indulge me for just a moment. Due to schedules, both mine and others, we have not officially thanked Rob Barron for his service as board chair for the 2015-2016 board year. So I'd like to take a moment out to officially acknowledge a great year and great leadership, and to present you with your mini gavel in recognition of all of the times that you use the main gavel to bring us to order and to keep us in line, but more importantly, to execute the business of the district. So Rob, thank you for your service. I don't have anything else to share except two very quick things. I know we still have a couple of students who are here tonight. They were here as part of a government class, so I want you to wave your hand so that we can acknowledge that you were here. Appreciate your time. Hopefully you've learned a little about our procedures, but we welcome you to come back. And we certainly appreciate the fact that you chose us as your a board meeting to attend to learn about board governance. So we appreciate you being here. And then for the viewing public, we did have, and I want to thank the staff, and I'm not for sure officially who to thank, but likely Phil's staff and others from our information office for the new great introductory video that we had the opportunity to see for the first time tonight. So thank you very much for that. I don't have anything else. I would ask for any other board comments. Hearing none, I would turn it over to the superintendent. Wish everyone happy holidays. This is our last official board meeting for 2016, so we'll see everyone in the new year. Superintendent Ahart.
Thank you. This room was full on Saturday morning with over 100 community members and many of our board members here too, as the largest public gathering of the board committee called the Citizens Legislative Action Team had its first legislative breakfast. And we did have 6 elected officials represented. Not as many as we had hoped, but there are several other legislative breakfasts on the docket for the beginning of the year and into the legislative session. There's some good inertia going with our board committee, and I just urge our entire community to stay engaged. We know that there are lots of challenges. There always are lots of challenges legislatively as it relates to support for school districts. And the mantra again this year will be, well, there's just no money. Can you ever remember a year where people said, hey, we're rolling in it, just ask for what you want? That's never the case. It's always a matter, to some degree or other, of priorities. People mentioned special interests. the special interests that this committee has and that the superintendent has are the 33,000 students that we're attempting to educate as effectively as we can. So I just urge everyone to stay engaged, stay involved. If you can't make it to the meetings live, there's a tremendous Facebook presence, and look for ways to apply the appropriate pressure to the appropriate legislators when decision-making time comes around, and that'll be coming sooner probably rather than later relative to the last few sessions. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Ahart, and I likely should have mentioned this while Wes Hall was still here, but if we have an extra copy of this, or if anyone would be willing to give us their copy, I think it would be great for him to see. You gave it to him already? Okay, great. See the article that was in the Urban Educator regarding our first Young Men of Color Conference. So with that, and hearing no objection, our meeting is adjourned.